raise your hands if you want to ask. Pak Adnyana, you want to ask question? Okay. And this side. Okay, while waiting for another, so please committee give the microphone to, yes, okay. Please mention your name and maybe institution. Thank you.
Check. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Richmond Faithful. You can call me Richie. I'm from Universitas Terbuka. Thank you all the speakers for the materials, and I am actually, sorry, my heart beats so fast, I'm kind of nervous. I'm actually kind of interested in Dr. Chokorda's materials, even despite the technical problems. I guess, I mean, we can all understand the materials, like that was a very detailed and complex situations, yet are explained in a very simple way. Thank you, Dr. Chokro. Oh, I'm sorry, Chokoria. So we have the term Industry 4.0 in our sub-theme today, and as we all know, the revolution Industry 4.0, even the Society 5.0, are highly attached to businesses where technology had gotten into its peak like it is today, are mostly because startups today are combinations between businesses and technology. They combine technology and business. So are there like any opportunity for us youth to build such a digital business which can combine the websites using the indigenous languages, where we can combine not only technology and business, but also culture, mainly the indigenous language. And actually, there are two questions, both are attached one to another. There will be any line that we shouldn't cross, since culture can cause many point of view, many interpretations, like, I mean, things like that. That's all for me. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for your questions. So those questions are addressed to Pak Chokorda, but if other speakers want to complete the answer, yeah, welcome. So we are going to invite another from this side. Please, committee. Yeah.
Selamat siang, terima kasih. Izinkan saya menyampaikan pertanyaan dalam bahasa Indonesia, tapi nanti terserah mau dijawab dengan bahasa Inggris, saya juga dengarkan. Pertanyaan ini mungkin saya nggak tahu siapa yang lebih depan jawab, apakah Prof. Giri atau Pak Co atau mungkin juga narasumber yang lain. Ada hal yang menarik masalah alih.
Introduce your name, please.
Oh iya, sorry.
Yeah.
Nama saya Made Adnyana,
Yes.
dari Universitas PGRI Mahadewa Indonesia. Ada hal yang menarik masalah alih digital ini ya, masalah bahasa daerah, karena kalau berbicara bahasa itu kan bukan hanya lambang ya, bukan hanya huruf, tetapi juga masalah bahasa. Nah ini sering yang barangkali menjadi kendala, saya kira bukan hanya di aksara Bali, tapi di Sunda maupun Jawa. Ada kata-kata tertentu yang jika misalnya dialihkan ke dalam bahasa itu menjadi nggak nyambung. Contoh misalnya kemarin saya lihat nama acara Digital Transformation in Southeast Asia itu misalnya. Mau dipakaikan aksara Bali dalam tanda kutip dipaksakan bisa. Tapi bahasa Bali itu misalnya tidak mengenal aksara H. Terus kemudian Southeast itu diterjemahkan jadi apa? Dicarikan jadi Southeast. Sehingga kalau dibaca ya mungkin agak aneh juga. Nah ini barangkali ada pemikiran nggak barangkali apakah dari Prof. Giri atau Pak Co atau bagaimana mengatasi hal-hal seperti ini? Karena contoh misalnya ketika kita lihat di kantor pemerintahan atau di Bandara Ngurah Rai, yang diterjemahkan itu adalah ucapannya. Jadi misalnya Bandara Ngurah Rai, dicarikan aksara yang sesuai. Karena saya kira itu menarik, tetapi akhirnya ada beberapa aksara yang nggak ketemu gitu, Prof. Jadi misalnya Kak Southeast itu ya mau dicarikan ke dalam aksara cuma anacaraka data sawala, nggak ketemu Southeast itu, jadi dicarikan yang mirip. Kalau di eja jadinya aneh gitu. Nah, mungkin ada pemikiran nggak bagaimana untuk mengatasi hal semacam ini. Mungkin itu aja, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Made Adnyana. Masih ada pertanyaan lagi? Jangan malu-malu ya, ini kesempatan yang luar biasa untuk bertanya kepada para expert di dunia indigenous languages and technology ya. Baik, kalau belum ada, kita jawab dulu ya, Pak Cok. Silahkan.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sonia. Thank you, Richie, for the question and the comment. So your question is, when we talk about Industry 4.0, it's basically the combination between the business and technology. Your question is, can we build something as a startup related to the culture? Well, when we talk about business, if no one built anything yet, that means it's a good business. Agree? For instance, if you look around in around 2000 or something, when people start to sell the voucher of the mobile phone, okay? When you are the only one who sell that means that you are the only one who have that margin. But today, every couple of meters you find them, okay? So as a startup, don't look what people do and then you copy it. That's from my understanding. Okay? But then you create something that's called innovation. Right? At the beginning, no one wants to use it, but then at the end, when you already start far away and then everyone else start late, then they are far behind. So to answer your question, is there anything that we can develop as a business related to the culture? There's a lot. Yeah? I remember a couple months ago, me and the student, we tried to compete for the international competition. We tried to develop this multi-languages website that related to Balinese culture. We come up with the idea Balinese and Chinese culture. Because in Bali you can see there's many mix of Balinese and Chinese culture which is no one has it. That means there's a good opportunity. But I don't know because we haven't got the result yet, but from our understanding that's a good business. If we can sell that one to the tourists or to anyone who would like to come to Bali, so then that's a good thing that we can do. Okay? So the next question is, what about the cross-culture, many interpretation? At the beginning, that's the reason why I talk about, in order to bring the culture into the digital form, don't just bring the culture and put into the digital form. We need to understand that. For myself, I try to put a simple thing, what we have here in Bali called kulkul, or in Indonesia called kentongan. It's not really easy. Okay? To put that into the digital form, we need to understand that. That's why in the beginning I mentioned about Balinese culture. It's quite fragmented. And many of the knowledge is still in the tacit form. We need to ask them. As a human, we really understand that. So when people do this, for instance, that I'm with you, people here in Bali, they usually born there, they live there, they die there. So we don't need an explanation. By doing this one, everyone will understand. Okay? But those now, because we talk about the main interpretation, because now in Bali, especially, we're moving from one place to another. For example, I'm basically come from Klungkung. It's basically from east of Bali. Okay, but then I live in Denpasar. I only go home to my ancestor or to my village is whenever we have a ceremony. And do we expect that I understand what the culture of there? No. Okay. What I try to do is try to search at the internet, but none of them are available. Okay. So what I try to emphasize in here is bringing the culture in the digital form is really good. So then we don't see, if you look at people, the young generation, many of us, especially the elders said, the new generation, they don't want to continue the culture. From my study, that's not the case. The case is none of those information available on the internet. If you try to understand the thing, or my generation or younger generation, you go to Google. But what if no one ever write about that on the internet? How can you learn? Your parents expect you to go there and sit there the whole day, the whole month. You don't want to do that. This is the industry era 4.0. Everyone would like to do fast, 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 fast. If you're watching the YouTube, for instance, 30 minutes of tutorial. Have you watched really 30 minutes? No. Every couple of seconds, you press forward, press forward, press forward. I want to go to the at the end. So the way that we present the information also in the digital form, we also need to understand the human. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, Prof. Giri.
Okay, thanks, moderator. Thank you, Matur Suksma, Blimade. Correct, 100%. Yes, we do recognize that like as an example, like in Makassar or Lontara, they use double consonant. Makassar, double S. Ramang-ramang, double M, and so on. So they have their own unique character, which is why if we look into Arab Pagon, which is actually written in Arabic script, but since not all words in Java language can be represented in Arabic language or Arabic scripts, then they add certain things that to facilitate the usage of the Arabic script for the Javanese language. And we do recognize that. To make it more challenging, in each local scripts or ancient scripts, as an example in Java, there are so many variations of it, which is why we mentioned to the Javanese language community in the beginning of this year, if we want the industry to adopt it, then they need to follow the international or the national standard, which is in this case ISO, International Standard Organization, or the SNE, Indonesian National Standard. Once it is mentioned in the SNI, then it will be included in the ISO. Then the industry will adopt it. So in that case, we need to come up with standard. And together with the community, with the language community of the Javanese language, this year we have an event together with them on the Congress Aksara Jawa, Javanese Script Congress. And thankfully that they have already come up with standard. And nowadays we are actually working together to have, together with the community and also the government, to have standardization on the Javanese language, on the Sundanese language, on the Balinese language. More detail on that, we have Kang Ilham, who sat next beside me, who always inspired us, always mengilhami, so always inspired us on the ancient scripts or local scripts. Monggo, Kang Ilham.
Terima kasih. Thank you so much, Pak Yudo. Well, I think I can respond about the cross-cultural aspect. Indeed, that the cross-cultural aspects, especially on the script, that was used and is used in Indonesia today, it happens. Yeah. So, like in the past, the Kawi script, for example, the use of this script historically, it's about 1,000 years, I think. It's about more or less 1,000 years. The script itself used by all the Malay language, all the Sundanese language, all Javanese language, and I think all the Philippines. So every language has its influence to the orthography, to the use of spelling, and so on. As mentioned by Pak Yudo, for example, the Arabic script that's used in Indonesia has various influence from the local community. While in Malay realm, it used the Malay language with its orthography, which is different with Pegon and Serang. So the cross-cultural is indeed happen and it feasible and it's there. So I think so.
Yeah, I would like to add a bit about the question from Pak Made Adjana. As I mentioned earlier in the beginning, that Balinese, either Balinese culture or Balinese language is quite fluid. Yeah? That's why I basically mentioned about we adopt what we call Desa Kalapatra. Okay? In 2019, we have what we call Pesamuan Alit, which is we discuss what you asked the question earlier. We discuss how do we present that into the public era. As you know that in the beginning, all of the Balinese script, we don't have space between words, okay? But then when we have that Pesamuan, everyone agree we should adopt that. Otherwise, that we can write a correct way in the public era. So basically, Balinese language or Balinese script is kind of fluid. Depend when do we use it. And I think we as a Balinese, we agree with that. So we not really say that we need to stick what we have in the past. No. I think the Balinese community, the Balinese script community, we agree, otherwise that no one will use it. No, everyone will have to write Aksara Bali in the public era, in public area. Because we cannot translate, the best way is basically to translate that into a Balinese language, then we write that into the Balinese script. But that's not the case right now. If we want to do it now, no one would like to write, and many times it's hard to find the synonym they have and try to find in the Balinese. No. So I think as a Balinese, I think we're quite fluid. I think we quite adapt with what we have right now. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I can add something. Yeah, maybe for the second question from Pak Made. So I explain in English. For the alih digital, alih ejaan. So this is about transcription and like writing the loan word from English to Indonesian, like computer with C in English and car in Indonesian. So there should be a convention agreement about the language user, about how to pronounce, how to spell the foreign word. So if the case is airport name, Bandara Ngurah Rai, and then written down to the Balinese script. So it, in my view, it should use the Balinese convention on writing and spelling the word, not using the foreign. So it will be so weird when use like computer with C and write it down on Balinese with cha, it will be spelled as computer. It's so weird. So mostly the indigenous script is used to pronounce, to represent the sound of the spoken language. So that's the weirdness about English, I think, because inconsistency in English, what is written is sometimes mostly different what is spoken. So in the indigenous Indonesian script, mostly they are the same. What is spoken is what is written. So it's depend on the convention. Sometimes in one script there are several conventions. For example, in Javanese, the convention for writing Old Javanese, or perhaps in Balinese also, it's different for writing the modern Javanese or modern Balinese language. So it's about convention, and it is optional. So thank you.
Okay,
Can I add something?
Talk about this, and I believe that that is also some solution for those issues. Yeah. Next, yeah. Just like what is explained by Pak Ilham just now. And Pak Cokorda also said that Balinese language is fluid, so we still can adapt some of the language that is still acceptable. Yeah. This is a very interesting issue, but I'm afraid we still have only 12 minutes left.
Can I add
here.
something?
Yes, 12, yes. And we are also inviting questions from online or Zoom, if any.
Can I add?
Sophie will
Can
help
I add
if
something?
there is, okay, if there is a question. In the meantime, if you still have question from the audience here, from the floor, we also still invite maybe one or two questions.
Can I add something, Bu?
Oh, yes, please.
Unmute you after, please.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to draw your attention on two things.
Yeah.
First, Indonesia has a long history to unify our country. It's very isolated. So, the ideal form in the future is actually to make it intertwined. That's why we use the word merajut. So, as every local community like to maintain the existence of their local language, local script, I would like to suggest every local community make awareness of other scriptures, other languages, local language. So there are Javanese who really like to learn Balinese, there are Balinese who learn Batak, then it becomes an intertwining, widen our platform, not only for the local community. Then we have another problem if it is only for local communities. Then it becomes the previous Indonesia with all isolation for the local. Make aware to all local communities that the existence of other scriptures in the region, and that will make the population wider for each local language. That is my first point. Second point, about phonetics. PANDI maybe can take the initiative, not only the scripture, but also the library of phonetics. Like if we use a dictionary, we have that phonetic symbol to maintain and to keep tracking of the pronunciation. That will help everyone to pronounce it better. Only those 2 points. Thank you, Ibu.
Thank you, Richard, for the additional information about intertwining the point of view of local language. Yeah, Ibu Sarah, I think raised the hands. Yeah, please, Ibu Sarah, if you have additional information.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to add something regarding the first question. Add something to what Pak Cokorda already mentioned. First, I can only emphasize the need for understanding the cultural context, as Pak Cokorda already raised it earlier, because I think it's really a key for the proper use of scripts and language. And second, two very short points. I think we have to distinguish two processes. There is a first process that is about bringing cultural features or language into the digital dimension, and it's actually a kind of archive, a work of archiving the resources I was mentioning earlier, and this requires a distance. Pak Cokorda mentioned that when you are part of this culture or this language, you don't ask what it means or what it is about, but you know it, you just perform it. Now, when you start to transfer it to another dimension, then you need to take distance in order to think on how you want to present it or to represent it. So this is the first point. So it has a structural change involved. Second point is that we can not only do that, but we can also use it as a resource for new creations online. And here I come back to my point about who are the natives here in the digital dimension. The natives are not the people who are transferring from offline to online, but actually the people who already are inside and who create with the sources, with the other resources. So it's another problem. It's another process actually, and I think it's important to distinguish them. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with generation. I mean, you have indeed young people. The youth is much more equipped and aware of this digital dimension than my father, for example. But it's mainly people who evolve in this dimension and who have the strong digital literacy that can actually create and use these sources as resources for new things right now in the cyber digital dimension. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your points, Ibu Sarah. Okay, we still have 6 minutes left. If there is something from the presenters, okay. Okay, Pak Ono, do you want to say something? Okay.
Well, I really hope we can work together, basically, as Pak Yudo mentioned. We work together so we can build the font into the system, operating system, and so on. And I really hope the language teacher at schools can use computer to teach language. Then this language will be embedded, will included into the system and make Payudo work easy to negotiate with ICANN and so on. That's what my really works. I hope the government can support us, and we should work together on this one. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pak Jo, you want to say final remarks? Okay.
No, I just want to give you some experience that I have. That's why the reason why this work is very important. The reason why the PANDI's work is very important. I remember when I was in Australia, there is a Balinese community, basically expatriate between the father probably Balinese, the mother probably Australian. They would like their kids to learn Balinese language and Balinese script, okay? And then they asked me to guide them. And their question was, where can I learn? Is there any material available on the internet? Is there any tools that we can use? The problem, we don't have it. So my point is, don't just think about people who live in Indonesia, those who live in Bali, but those also who live outside the island, which is those who really, really need that. They really, really appreciate what we have. That's the thing that we need to think about as well. Thank you.
Ilham, you want to say something?
Okay. Maybe the last from me is because I very often communicating with communities in various regions in Indonesia about the scripts. Most of them need support in terms of like cooperation with many stakeholders, like governmental stakeholders, and then private sectors to support their movements. By, like Pak Cokorda said, we need to provide resources, digital resources for them, make their movement more feasible. Thank you.
Okay, give applause for all the presenters. Okay, Pak Yudo. Okay. So as a conclusion, I would like to say that there is a huge homework for us together that we should do in the near future to raise the awareness of the importance of indigenous language to be used in our part of our life, especially in digital era. So thank you very much for your participation, and we